Okay, chapter 3, section 5, graphing linear equations in slope-intercept form. Raise your hand if you can tell me what slope-intercept form is. Yes?
Y equals mx plus b.
Very good. Y equals mx plus b. That's slope-intercept form. We'll spend a few days on this, so just be ready for 3.5 for a few days.
Bang.
For a few days?
Okay, yep, for a few days.
Okay,
Okay, moving on. We can get it at the end of class. Slope dude video. We already watched that, didn't we?
Yeah.
If you didn't already do so, go ahead and draw his course. Go ahead and draw Slope Dude's course.
Does he do that like every day? Like, is it constant?
What?
Does he like do the same thing every
Yeah. Every single day.
Every single day. Non-stop.
Okay. So when Slope Dude was going uphill from left to right, what did he say?
Positive.
Positive. What that means is, if I have a line going uphill from left to right, the slope of that line will be a positive number. Okay? What did he say going downhill?
Nice negative.
Nice negative. If I have a line going downhill from left to right, the slope is going to be a number that is negative. It's going to be a negative number. What did he say on the long flat part?
Zero. This is zero.
This is zero fun. So what's the slope of a horizontal line? Zero. We already talked about that with Hoy, didn't we? What does the O on Hoy represent? A zero. It's telling me the slope is zero, right? So now we have two ways to identify a horizontal line being a slope of zero. What did he say going over the cliff? Undefined. Sorry. So, the slope of a vertical line is undefined. We also talked about that with Vux, didn't we?
Yep.
So, are there any questions about Slope Dude and identifying whether the slope of a line is positive, negative, zero, or undefined? Are we okay with that?
Yep.
Okay, moving on. Here's just another summary of it with actual graphs. So if a line rises from left to right, it's positive slope. Line falls from left to right, negative slope. Horizontal line, slope of zero. Vertical line, undefined slope. Pretty easy? See. Let's talk about slope. What are the two words you used, what over what, in pre-algebra?
Rise over run.
Rise over run, right? It hasn't changed. Slope is still rise over run. The slope m, we use m, the variable m, to denote slope of a non-vertical line passing through 2 points, x1, y1, and x2, y2, is the ratio of the rise. So rise goes in the numerator. The rise is my change in y variables. So one y variable minus the other y variable. To the run. Run's my denominator. It's my change in my x. One x value minus the other x value. I want you to go ahead and write down this whole thing. And I'll write it a little bigger up here at the top so you can see it. If you can't see it right now. Slope equals the variable m. We use m to represent slope. Slope is also, like we talked about, rise over run. Slope is also the change in y. Over the change in x. And then the last part is our slope formula. y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. You need to have all that written down. The whole thing written down. Write the whole thing down.
Write the whole thing? No.
So once again at the bottom, we've already talked about this. When the line rises from left to right, the slope is positive. When the line falls from left to right, the slope is negative. So if you're given a graph of a line, You can draw or if you have 2 points, you can draw a triangle between those 2 points. Does everyone see how we draw the triangle?
Yes. Oh, yeah.
The height of my triangle is my rise. It's my change in my y variables. So y2 minus y1. The width of my triangle is my run. My change in my x variables. x2 minus x1. So we can use that to find our slope if we're given just a graph of a line. Are there any questions before I move to examples?
Triangle's scary.
Huh?
That's a scary triangle.
How?
Because in geometry, it's Pythagorean's theorem.
Yeah, it's a right triangle, isn't it?
A2.
A squared plus b squared equals c squared.
The worst thing ever. E squared.
Hmm?
You say E squared?
Can I go ahead and move on?
Like seeing a spider.
Okay. Letter A, example 1. Describe the slope of each line, then find the slope. So we're going to use slope dude to describe the slope of each line. So it's either going to be positive, negative, 0, or undefined. That's how we're going to describe it. So here's the graph of my line right here. Is that going uphill from left to right, downhill? Is it horizontal? Is it vertical? What's happening here? Uphill from left to right. What does slope dude say going up the hill? Up, positive. So for letter A, I'm going to say the slope is positive. Everyone okay with that?
Yes.
Now it wants me to find the slope. I drew the triangle between the 2 points, correct? So what's the height of my triangle? How many units?
What is that for?
4, right? Is the height of my triangle my rise or my run? Rise. So does it go in my numerator or my denominator?
Numerator.
Numerator. So I'm going to put 4 in the numerator. Now let's find the width of the triangle.
6.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That goes in the denominator of my slope. It's supposed to be positive, right? So I leave it as positive 4 over 6. Can that be reduced any?
Yes.
What does it reduce to?
2/3.
2/3. So my slope on letter A is 2 over 3.
Are you allowed to do this?
Do what?
Just simplify it down.
Yeah. Let's see what happens if we use our slope to get from one point to the next. Let's go up 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Is that on the line? Yeah.
I guess it would
1,
still
2,
be the same.
1, 2, 3.
That's my bad.
Yeah, Ryan.
Yep. Anytime you have a fraction, you have to reduce it. Always reduce your fraction if you're able to. Okay? Questions on A? Now, you don't always have to actually draw the triangle in there. Sometimes you can imagine the triangle in your head and ask yourself, how far do I get from this point to this point? So I would start here. How far do I go up to get from this point to this point?
4.
1, 2, 3, 4. How far do I go to the right?
6.
6. So it'd be, if I go up, positive. If I go down, negative. Right? If I go right, positive. If I go left, negative. So if I started here, I could start from this top point and go down 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. That'd be a negative 4. I could go left 6, which would be a negative 6. Right? Does that change my slope at all? No. A fraction is just division, right? So if I have a negative 4 over a negative 6, what's a negative divided by a negative give me? Positive, so it still stays positive. And I reduce to 2/3. Does that make sense? What are my ordered pairs on letter A?
-3, -2,
3, 2. -3, -2, correct? I could find the slope using my slope formula. If I wanted to. So what are my x values of my ordered pairs?
3 and -3.
3 and -3. It's the first value in each ordered pair, right? What are my y values?
2 and -2.
2, -2. The 2 or the second value in each ordered pair. So I've got two y values, correct? I got a y2 and a y1. That's just talking about which order they're written in. So where's my second y? What's my second y? Negative 2. So that's y2. So I can plug negative 2 in for y2. Okay? Bring your minus sign over from the formula. And now what's my first y value? 2. So everyone see how we're plugging into the formula? What's my second x value? Negative 3. Bring your minus sign over from the formula. What's my first x value? 3. Everyone okay with how I plugged in? Negative 2 minus 2. Negative 4. Negative 3 minus 3. Negative 6. Once again, a negative divided by a negative gives me a positive. And what would 4 over 6 reduce to? 2. Did I get the same thing I got earlier?
You did.
So you can do either method. Either way will work. Questions on letter A? Can I erase and move to B?
Yep.
Raise your hand if you can describe the slope for me on letter B.
Negative 3 and 2.
Nope, describe the slope.
It's running 2, and go down 3.
What does slope dude say on this line? Is what I'm asking.
Oh, he says 0, no fun. Wait, no.
Yep.
I don't know.
The slope is negative. Slope dude would say nice negative. That's me describing the slope. That's what it wants me to do first, correct? Now I need to actually find the slope. So we've already got our triangle drawn. The height is my rise. So what's the height of my triangle? 3. The width is the run. So how wide is the triangle? 2. And then what does slope dude say on this line? Nice negative, so I need to make it a negative. That's one way you can always do it. Draw your triangle, get the height for the rise, get the run or the width for the run, and then ask yourself what slope dude says on it and get the correct sign. That's one way you could do it. Okay? Or you could do I'm going up 3, left 2, so that'd be negative 3 halves. Right? Or I'm going down 3 and right 2, so that'd be a negative 3 over 2. Either way will give you the same answer. Questions on example 1? We okay?
We need to put it as -1.5
For slope, I like you to leave it as a fraction and not a decimal. That's going to help us whenever we're graphing using slope. Is to leave it as a fraction. So go ahead and leave it as a fraction when we're dealing with slope. We okay with that? Example 2. Finding slope from a table. The points represented by each table lie on a line. How can you find the slope of each line from the table? What is the slope of each line? So let's answer the first question first. How can you find the slope of each line from the table? Yes?
You would just find the difference between, 4 to 7, that's plus 3. 7 to 10 is plus 3. 10 to 13 is plus 3.
Very good. Does everyone see what he's saying? How do I get from 4 to 7? 7 to 10. 10 to 13. Do I just do it for the x's?
Nope. Well, and the y's.
And the y's. So 20 to 14. Subtract 6. 14 to 8. Subtract 6. 8 to 2. Do you guys remember doing this in a previous lesson? When did we do this?
The mailbox one.
That's function, not a function. Very good. To decide if it's linear or non-linear, correct? This one would be linear or non-linear.
Linear.
Why?
Because it has a constant rate of change.
Very good. It has a constant rate of change. Remember, rate of change is just another word or phrase for slope. It's got a constant slope. It's got a constant rate of change, right? So I know it's linear. I also know it's linear because it told me that each table, the points represented on each table lie on a line.
so I can assume that it's linear. But this is my rate of change here, aka my slope. So what would my slope look like for letter A? 3 over negative 6?
Negative 6
Negative
over
6
3.
over 3.
Negative 1/2.
Which one is it? I'm getting two
Negative
answers.
6 over 3.
Because y is your run, or rise, sorry.
Very good. You cannot just throw any number in any order, can you? Remember, my rise, my numerator, is my change in y. My change in y variables is in the numerator. So what's my change in y here? Negative 6, right? So that's my y column. It's my change in y. So my run is my change in x that goes in the denominator. What goes in the denominator? Negative 6 divided by 3? Negative 2. It's an ugly 2. It's better. There's my slope for letter A. So, how can you find the slope of each line from the table? You can find the rate of change of each table by finding the difference in x and y. Right? What's another way I can find the slope here?
Couldn't you just take 2, divide or change y? Yeah, couldn't you like take 2 of the y's and
Do that.
then 2 of the x's?
That corresponds.
I can use that slope formula, can't I?
Yes.
Here's the question though. How do I decide which 2 points to use? Because I only use 2 points, correct, for that slope formula? How do I decide which 2? Why?
Because
They're on the same line.
It's a line, right? So I know it's going to have a constant rate of change. So it doesn't matter which 2 points I pick. I can pick point 1 and point 2. I can pick point 1 and point 3, point 1 and point 4. 2 and 3, 2 and 4, 3 and 4. I can pick any combination of any 2 points to plug into my slope formula. I'll get the same slope. Does that make sense? Do I need to do an example of that, or are we good with that?
I'm good.
We're good? Okay, can I erase and move to B?
Yes.
Okay, how do I get from negative 1 to 1?
Add 2.
Add 2. How do I get from 1 to 3?
Add 2.
Add 2. 3 to 5? Add 2. How do I get from 2 to 2? Add 0. 2 to 2?
Add 0.
Add 0. 2 to 2? Add 0. So what number would go in my numerator here? 0, because that's my change in my y's. That's my rise. What would go in my denominator? 2, because that's in my denominator. That's my change in x. What's 0 divided by 2? 0. Everyone okay with that?
Yep.
Can I erase and move on? Okay. How do I get from negative 3 to 0? Add 3. How do I get from 0 to 6?
Oh, yes, 6.
Uh-oh. 6 to 9.
Wait.
Hold on. Negative 3 to negative 3. They're all 0, right? So, back when we were talking about linear, nonlinear, we would have said this is nonlinear, right? Because it doesn't have a constant rate of change. But, based on the information I'm given, the points represented by each table lie on a line, so it must have a constant rate of change for it to be a line. They just did not put all the ordered pairs in the table. What ordered pair are they missing?
negative 3.
No.
Negative 3, comma 3.
Yeah.
Right here, right? So what is my change in y each time? 3. Does everyone understand why I can assume it does have a constant rate of change?
Yes.
Because it told me it is a line. Okay? Everyone okay with that? Okay. So what number goes in my numerator? 3. What number goes in my denominator? 0. What's 3 divided by 0?
3.
It's not 3. It's not 0.
Type in 3 divided by 0 on your calculator.
It'll give you no answer.
Undefined. Yeah, it's a
Syntax.
It gives you an error, doesn't it?
Oh, 'cause it's
So,
undefined.
my slope here is
Mine says zero.
Mine won't turn on.
3 divided by 0. What'd you get?
It said divide by.
There we go. You got an error, didn't you?
Oh, darn.
So it should be undefined?
Yeah.
Or it should just be 0/2?
So letter B, we had a number over 0, which gave us 0, correct? Or 0 over a number, I mean. So if I have 0 over a number, my slope is 0. Letter C, I got a number over 0. If I have a number over 0, it's undefined. Okay? You can't do a number divided by 0, because 0 doesn't go into that number.
Yeah.
Okay? So, letter B, what kind of a line is this if my slope is 0?
It's
It's
What is that?
fine.
Flat line. What do we use for a flat line? What word? Horizontal.
horizontal.
So I know on letter B it's a horizontal line. Let's take it a step further. What is the equation? What's the form of an equation of a horizontal line?
Pass it burns.
X.
It burns.
What's the other one?
So y equals?
Y equals, right?
Oh. Y equals
If I know it's a horizontal line, it's got a slope of 0, I know the equation takes on the form y equals some number, right?
Oh.
So what would the equation be on letter B?
Y equals.
What are all my y values?
2.
Y equals 2 would be the equation of that line.
Okay.
That makes sense? Do y'all see that connection?
Yeah.
Okay, so letter C, if my slope is undefined, what kind of a line is this going to be? Vertical. What form does the equation take of a vertical line?
X
Equals 0.
X equals a number, so what's the equation here?
X equals 0.
What are all my x values?
Negative 3.
-3.
Oh.
Everyone see that?
Yeah.
Pretty easy?
I can't see.
Pretty easy? Questions on example 2? What's wrong with that one?
That one does not work.
Any questions on example 2? We're okay? Okay, example 3, not example 3. Now let's talk about slope-intercept form again. A linear equation written in the form y equals mx plus b is in slope-intercept form. Write that down. Write down slope-intercept form and then next to it put y equals mx plus b. Slope-intercept form, put a colon or something to separate it, and then put y equals mx plus b. Slope-intercept form, 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 y equals mx plus b. What is slope-intercept form? Y equals mx plus b. Now on your equation, you may want to label it. The slope of the line is m. So m is your slope. And the y-intercept of the line is b. You may want to go ahead and label that. M is your slope. B is your y-intercept. The slope will always be multiplied by x in slope-intercept form. Your y-intercept will be the constant, the number without a variable. Everyone okay with that? Down here, a linear equation written in the form y equals 0x plus b. What's 0 times x? 0, so it goes away. So it's just y equals b. Y equals some number. What kind of a line is that?
Horizontal.
Horizontal. What slope does it have?
0.
0. If it's in this form, we call that a constant function. The graph of a constant function is a horizontal line. We just call it a constant function because it's y equals a constant, right? So, later on in the week, we'll actually get to graphing using slope-intercept form.
To graph using slope-intercept form, first off, what is a y-intercept?
Something that crosses the Y.
Where it crosses my y-axis, right?
Yeah.
Wherever my graph crosses my y-axis. So B is my y-intercept. Whatever number that is, I can put a point on the y-axis at that number. And then I can use my slope to get more points, and that's how we're going to graph using slope-intercept form later on in the week. Everyone okay with that?
Yeah.
Wait.
Are there any questions about slope-intercept form so far?
No.
Can I move on, or are we still writing?
Still writing.
Okay, I'm giving you time. Go ahead and move on.
Yes.
No?
Yeah. I was saying slope.
Can I move on? Okay. Example 3. Identifying slopes and y-intercepts. Find the slope and the y-intercept of the graph of each linear equation. Remember, a slope is multiplied by my x variable. The y-intercept is just the constant. So letter A. Is that in slope-intercept form? Y equals 3x minus 4.
Yes.
I hear yes and I hear no.
Which one?
A.
Yes, it
It
is.
is.
Number 1?
Yeah.
Raise your hand if it is in slope-intercept form.
Yes.
Wait, which one?
Letter A.
Letter A.
Raise your hand if you do not think it is in slope-intercept form.
Wait, you voted for it, bro?
Okay, this is in slope-intercept form. If I'm subtracting a number, that's the same thing as adding its negative. Nope, it's not different. So minus 4 tells me that the 4 is going to be negative, right? So, letter A, since it's already in slope-intercept form, what's my slope? What's the number being multiplied by x? 3. You can write 3 over 1 if you want, but we don't have to. We're not graphing right now. And what's my y-intercept? Negative 4. That's all I have to do on that one. Because it told me to find the slope and the y-intercept of the graph of each linear equation. Everyone okay with letter A?
Yeah.
Not too bad?
No.
Not too shabby.
Okay, letter B. Is that one in slope-intercept form?
No.
No?
No.
Raise your hand if you think B is in slope-intercept form.
I think it is.
Raise your hand if you do not think it's in slope-intercept form.
And I have reason.
I need everyone to vote. Raise your hand if you think it is in slope-intercept form.
C.
Raise your hand if you do not think it is in slope-intercept form. Some of you still didn't vote. Okay. This is in slope-intercept form.
Because y equals some number.
Look, down here. It's y equals some number, right? Y equals 0x plus b is just y equals b, right? So I could write this if I wanted to as y equals 0x plus 6.5, right?
Yeah.
Everyone see that?
Yeah.
So slope-intercept form, right?
Indeed.
What's my slope?
0.
0. What's my y-intercept?
6.5.
6.5. Questions on B?
None. Nada.
What kind of a line is that? What kind of a line is B? Horizontal. We call that a constant function. Letter B is a constant function because it takes on the form y equals some number.
Nice one.
Oh no!
Is it broken?
Don't even touch it. Don't even touch it.
That's actually impressive.
Draw something.
Oh.
That was so loud.
That's impressive. No.
Is it broken? Good job.
Questions on letter B?
It's probably crashed. That's impressive because it's an yeah, probably the edges.
Questions on letter B?
No.
Okay, letter C. Is that in slope-intercept form?
No.
It is not.
Negative.
Because y is not by itself, correct?
C.
Correct.
So what do you think I need to do before I identify the slope and the y-intercept?
Get y
Change
by
it
itself.
into the y.
Get it into slope-intercept form.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to get what by itself?
Y.
Y.
And
So what would be my first step to get y by itself?
I have one.
Add 5x. To both sides of the equation. Can I combine negative 2 and 5x? Are they like terms?
No.
No. So it stays as 5x minus 2. Is y by itself?
Yes.
No.
No,
No. It's a negative with it.
Yeah.
That's like a negative 1 times y. So how would I get y by itself?
Divide by -1.
Divide by negative 1. When I divide the right side by negative 1, I have to divide every term by negative 1. So what happens to the positive 5x when I divide by negative 1? Changes the sign. Negative 5x. Negative 2 divided by negative 1. Positive 2. Is that now in slope-intercept form?
Yes.
It is. Y equals mx plus b. So what's my slope here? Negative 5. Because that number is being multiplied by x. And what's my y-intercept? 2. Because that's my constant. The number without a variable. We okay with that? If I give you this equation, is that in slope-intercept form?
Yes.
Yeah, it is. It's just kind of flipped around, right? What would my slope be there?
No, 2.
Negative.
Negative 2. The slope's multiplied by x, right? It's kind of tricky. It's negative 2 because it's multiplied by x. What's my y-intercept? 3 because that's my constant. Questions on C? You okay with that? Are there any questions about my notes before I end the recording and give you your assignment? Question about the notes?
Go back to the front.
Huh?
Go back to the front.
Yeah, I will. Are there any questions about the notes, though, before I end the recording?